is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for Mythos Tales, which is a game that actually did not do that well.
No.
Surprisingly. Which, I mean, here's the thing. This is one of those games that it's directed at a very specific audience.
Yeah, it's very niche.
Yes, if you like Cthulhu, you'll like this. But it's basically a blatant ripoff of the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. And it's funny, they mention I think in the rulebook that they're like, oh, stuff will be added for future expansions. Well, there are no expansions because I don't know why. I think they just
may have went under.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing is like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective has 4 boxes out and each has 10 cases. So
40.
So 40 total cases. And this has, I don't know how many this one has. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 8. There are 8 cases. Oh, look, H.P. Lovecraft. He looks like that picture up there. Anyway, let's not talk about him because that'll just draw a whole nother fucking topic of Lovecraft that I don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
So, Josh, what do you think of Mythos Tales?
I'm a big fan of detective stuff and the Cthulhu mythos, so I really like this game.
Yeah.
However, this case made me feel really dumb.
Because usually we're pretty good.
Like, yeah, I wouldn't say, like, brilliant or nothing, but
yeah, I mean,
we do better than -2.
Yeah, which is not the worst score I've ever gotten. I have shit the bed on a Sherlock Holmes ones before, but that's the nature of these games. Is like you're just gonna go on the trail thinking, oh, this is because you don't know what the questions are going to be at the very end.
No,
so you're like, okay, I guess I'll try to solve the case and hope that I found enough information. Which actually, and I'm gonna be doing a lot of comparisons with this one to Sherlock Holmes because I like Sherlock Holmes better than this, even though I like Lovecraft's mythos better than just natural detective. And it's all based on one mechanic. I don't like this time.
Yeah.
I like it in theory because it's like, oh, try to do it here, but I don't know. It gives you that sense of, oh god, okay, well, we really need to be on the ball. But whenever it hits that final day, then you're done. Whereas with the Sherlock Holmes games, you don't have that. You still want to be on the ball because Sherlock's going to do it in at least 1. And you
0.
lose.
I'm the culprit.
Yeah. I slaughtered those orphans. What? I was high on opium. Or heroin. Or whatever he was on.
I think it was heroin.
I think it was heroin too. But that's the thing is like you still have that sense of we need to do a good job because if we do it in 15, well, Sherlock probably didn't do it in 15, so we're going to lose points off that.
Yeah.
But you're never restricted.
Not by time.
Yeah. And that kind of bummed me out because, like, I felt like once we were halfway through day 3, we finally got on it, but we lost time that we didn't even get to really do the story.
Yeah, because... oh, we found a corpse, and it drove us crazy, and we fell unconscious.
And I like those mechanics.
Yeah, like, that's thematic, and it's nice, but, like, with it being time-constricted, and the cases are difficult, obviously,
yeah.
I thought we were doing so well.
I thought we were getting there. But that's the thing, is, like, for a game where each case you can only do once, which you technically can if you have a really good memory. Like, honestly, I could probably go back and do Investigation 1 and be like, oh, like, it would all be new to me.
It would jog your memory.
See, I don't think it would, because you were talking about stuff and I was like, I'll trust you on that, because I don't remember them. But it takes time. It takes, like, years before you can redo them. But that's the thing, is, like, with the time limit, the time tracker, you run out of the time, so you don't even get to see the full story or discover it for yourself, regardless of what the score is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess we have to end and go to the questions, and it's not up to the players to be like, okay, I think we got it. Now let's try and go on our own. And then get to the questions and realize you didn't find any answers.
Where was he buried?
Whenever it was like, yeah, once it started talking about the sun, I was like, oh, we fucked up. And then it kept going on, oh, why was he buried there? And I was like, we knew nothing. Where are they taking the skin? Great. But with all that being said, I do think this is a decent iteration of those Sherlock Holmes games.
Yeah.
If you are a huge fan of the Lovecraft.
And detective games.
But that brings me to my next point, is Sherlock Holmes and Mythos Tales. I mean, they're pretty much the exact same game. I mean, literally, there's a map like Sherlock. There's allies. The deck is new, which we got one card. The newspapers. It's pretty much a blatant ripoff. And I don't know who's doing the. It was just Yatari Games for the very first Sherlock Holmes, but they reprinted it. Now it's someone else, but I don't remember who did it. It's not 8th Summit who did it. But with these kinds of detective games, there are so much better ones out now.
Yeah.
There are Chronicles of Crime and Detective, a modern crime board game.
Yep.
Where they allow you to go back and forth between people. Here, with the book, it's pretty linear. If you find out information about a person, or if you go talk to whatever, the detective or the cop, and he's like, oh, I don't know much about that person, and then you go talk and find out more information, you can't go back.
Yeah, because you're not going to get anything.
Yeah, you're going to get the same paragraph. It would be interesting if they included a way where it's like, and this kind of probably did it. We didn't get to see much of the cards, but maybe these were their way of being like, okay, if you have card 12, then do this, but if you don't, then go here. And that allows you,
how do I get that card?
Yeah, and then if you find card 12, then you can go back and be like, oh, hey, I have it. So this actually does something a little bit better than the Sherlock Holmes games don't do. Because those are like, well, I guess, because you can never tell if someone's lying. Like, if you're like, well, he says he was here, but this other person is saying something different, so we can't go back and be like, well, this person is saying this. Whereas in Chronicles of Crime, you can. You can just go back and, well, actually, we found this knife, and now you can ask the person about the knife.
What about this knife? What are the logistics of this?
Or if you want to get really into the detective case, which you've played Chronicles of Crime, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've also done the Detective Modern Crime board game, which with the laptop.
Yep.
You want to get real into it, the Detective Modern Crime, I think, does it best out of all of them because of the laptop integration.
Yes.
And the interrogation aspect where it tells you their stress levels and the fingerprints and evidence that you can upload.
It's very in-depth.
It does it so well that they now in their expansion they included pictures. It's almost like you could get a corkboard and just plunge it in and string it and be like, okay, so this person knows this person. Who is this? And you can really get into it. Here, you don't have that.
No.
You are very limited by the book.
We got my piss poor note taking, apparently.
I mean, that's the thing. Is like that's why I don't like these games so much with a lot of people.
Yeah, because then you have to take everybody's stuff into consideration.
Right. And someone could just be really hung up on one thing, and then you're like, that's not even it, and then you blatantly ignore them, and then they're right the whole time. And you're just like, oh,
and then
whoops.
You're the asshole.
Yeah, you're the bad guy. But I like this game at 2 or 3. I think 3 is like the max number. It allows you to have that third person kind of be like, well, what about this? And it's like, oh, okay. So, I mean, there's really not a whole lot to say about the game. Like,
it's
cases
really
are
straightforward.
Yeah, the cases are very much well written. I mean, aesthetically, I don't like this massive book for all the cases. In Sherlock Holmes, each case has its own book.
Oh, okay.
Which is just better organized. So all the information, you just grab that case.
One little booklet.
Yeah. The newspapers I always think are actually pretty cool. They make you feel like you're actually reading, the newspaper and getting some information. One thing I've never liked about this one, this doesn't, and Sherlock Holmes does it, is they use old newspapers as well. And here, in this one, all the questions pertain to the case.
Yes.
Which I like. Some questions in Sherlock Holmes, they do have bonus questions of just other shit. You're solving a murder, but then a bonus question is like, who's the jewel thief? And you're like, what?
It has nothing to do with this.
And it's like, you're like 5 cases in, it's like, if you read the newspaper, because what I was going to say is the newspapers, they tell you to bring in papers from previous cases. And I've never liked that because it's like, no one would carry those around with them.
No.
You wouldn't be a month later, and it's like, I get having the day's newspaper and having information on that, but no one's going to be like, hey, newspaper boy, do you have a month-old newspaper? I feel like there was something in there. I never liked that.
I guess I understand, like, an investigator may keep it, just like, for whatever, but
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I would never keep a newspaper longer than a week.
Yeah, I wouldn't even keep a newspaper because it's like I have it on my phone, which is one of the other great things about detective. It's modern, so you have the internet and things like that, and Chronicles of Crime, depending on the senior, and actually a new expansion to Chronicles of Crime is set, I think, in the 1400s.
Oh wow,
that's a new expansion. Anyway, this isn't about them. They're all kind of lumped into one
detective games.
If you don't like detective games, you're not going to like this. If you don't like Lovecraft, you're definitely not going to like this, because this definitely deals more in the mystical, which I do like that.
I do like that.
This one was purely about, the case that we just did was about, spoilers, I guess, if you're watching just this, was about vampires. And I was like, oh, okay, but I was only thinking, star vampires, literal Cthulhu vampires, not actual...
Well, yeah, medieval...
Nosferatu or Dracula vampires. Yeah. So I actually like that.
Eastern Europe vampires.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't really like... Because there are some cases when you're in case 5, and then it's like a bonus question, or even sometimes a pertinent question is like, oh, if you read the newspaper from 3 cases ago, it's like, who is scouring that information? Just...
Holmes.
I don't know. Yeah, that's true. He just has all of them. He memorized every newspaper that he's ever read.
He's high on cocaine and heroin. Oh. He's just like, I see the letters.
He cuts every letter out, rewrites the newspaper, and he's like,
I am Jack the Ripper.
Oh, actually, there is a case for Sherlock Holmes where it's about Jack the Ripper. The next one is called The King Cometh.
Oh, that's actually in here.
Oh, really?
That is in here.
That's funny. So
it's
yeah. And what's actually interesting is they tell you so when it comes to the time track, it tells us the complexity, the investigation complexity, which is kind of where you have you have to solve it by. And the next one, once you solve it by the end of day 7, so you have a week. Oh wow. So you have 21 attempts, really.
So it's going to be real difficult.
Yeah. But I don't know, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the hard and fast, solve it by this, or do you prefer the free-flowing, we decide when we want to end? If we want to do 30 attempts, we get to do 30 attempts.
I guess
we're going to get negative 80 points, but we solved it.
I don't know. I kind of like both. Because, in mysteries, I want to solve it.
Yeah.
I obviously want to find the final piece to the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
But for a game aspect, I guess I like this because it gives you a time limit.
That's fair. See, because what they do is, what I would prefer is they could still do the time aspect, but a little bit different, because we lost a point for going to a certain location and losing time.
Yeah.
I think they essentially penalize you both, twice. You lose a point and you lost time. And it's I feel like they could have just done it where we just lost points.
And we technically lost 4 attempts because we went there, then stayed there, and then lost 2 additional.
Yeah, that's true.
So we lost 4 whole
Yeah, things where we could have been. I mean, we definitely wouldn't have gotten any other questions.
But we probably would have went to that Nathaniel Prescott.
Yeah, the Peasby, whatever, apartment. And been like, oh, okay. Like, on a, it's like, okay, the only thing she told us was to go there. But you're right. So it's like, I think if they were wanting to do it, they could have just been like, okay, if you did this, this, or this, you just lose more points. Instead of being like, you lose time as well. And it's like, ugh, that sucks. Because now that we know the answers, we can't ever go back and be like, okay, now let's try this a little bit different.
I guess we could technically house rule that. If it says we would lose time, we could make it like we lost 2.
You know, that's true. That's a good point, because this game, it doesn't hinge off the time so much. Because you still would, essentially, you can just mark, like tally how many leads you do, like in Sherlock, because this game is basically that game. And just be like, because it's even like, oh, if for every lead that you did over, in this case 10, you lose a point, you can still do that. Yeah. The timer has nothing to do with it, except it just tells you when to stop. So you could honestly just be like, well, we're not doing this anymore. Let's just keep going.
Until we find it.
And then we did 25, so then we're losing 15 points because we went over 10, like it would be in Consulting Detective.
Say, I would have just attributed, like, it made us lose 2 points on top of staying there twice. Instead of losing 2 time slots, we would just minus a point for each slot.
Yeah, lose 2 points. Yeah, I think, and that's a good point. You could easily house rule it. One thing that this game doesn't do, and also Sherlock Holmes doesn't really do, is utilize the map.
No.
Like, I feel like both those games can... I mean, the map is there, but I think the only thing in this particular case that we just did was we realized that the unvisited isle was over water.
Yeah.
And that did end up mattering, but you're never looking at the map and be like, okay, so he was here. He's saying that he went all the way over here, but there's no indication of movement, like tick marks where it's like, okay, let's measure. Each 5 measures is 20 feet, which takes 10 minutes or whatever. There's none of that to where you can be like, he said he got from here to here in 2 hours. Well, actually, if we measure it out, that takes 3 hours. It's just kind of, I think it's there for decoration, honestly. And to make you kind of feel a little bit more involved in the time, where at least you would have a map to be like, okay, well, here's the library, here's that, so are they related at all? I don't know. Like,
for visual effect, I guess, certain things are like really close in proximity, like this is really close to where the morgue is. Yeah. And all that, but it doesn't.
And that could be just because this particular case didn't use it. The Jack the Ripper mini campaign that is in there very much uses the map, because it's based off of, actually,
you're trying to figure out who Jack the Ripper is.
Right, and they had on the back of the map was Whitechapel. And so whenever he's like, oh, he killed here, and then you can actually trace it out and be like, okay, well, right across from there is, and so I guess it's more of a case-by-case basis. But yeah, I think this is decently well written. I think it is pretty atmospheric for the cases that we've done. But I just think that, I don't know. It's going to be dependent on, do you like Lovecraft? If not, then this isn't for you. Do Sherlock Holmes if you like detective stuff. But honestly, this one and the Consulting Detectives are leagues behind Chronicles of Crime and Detective Modern Crime board game. Like, those are so far ahead. But these are still fun. Like, you just have to do a lot of reading. It's the book. Yeah. And you're reading. Josh, do you have anything else?
Not really.
Scale of 1 to 10.
I'm gonna give it a 5.
Really? Oh God, this was like wasn't this in your top 10 at one point?
It was, yeah.
Then I played better games.
But I mean, we've played a lot of games since then.
That's true.
I still really like it, but like if I want to be critical, it's about an average game.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna give it a 6 because I really like Lovecraft, as you can tell from my.
I wanted to give it a 6, but like, Lovecraft isn't going to outweigh it for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's the only reason. I definitely would agree with the 5, but I do like this theme. But, I mean, at the same time, there are hundreds of other Lovecraft games out there that I would play before going to this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we honestly played this because Halloween's right around the corner, and this does give a spookier... I guess it depends. This isn't real.
This is
a slaughtered victim in whatever London, that is real.
Yeah, this is mysticism, spooky.
Yeah.
And like a Jack the Ripper case would
grisly
realism.
Yeah, would technically be scarier, but oh well. I'm still gonna stick by a 6. I mean, I like the Consultant Detectives ones very much, but they're just antique games. They're archaic in what's coming out now.
Yeah.
So that's our thoughts on Mythos Tales. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.